Hello.
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 Hi there.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Football Times podcast with myself, RadioTimes.com sport editor Michael Potts, and today I'm joined in the studio by fellow Northeasterner, and this is the first one you've done of 2020. It's Mr. Matthew Ketchell from BBC Match of the Day magazine.
Hey, Arit, Michael.
I'm all right, Pet. How are you?
Good.
Don't know what that was. Let's dive straight into it. We're going to be previewing all of the weekend's Premier League games on TV. Just the four for you this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. No Monday Night Football. Because we have a full round of Premier League games coming next midweek on a Tuesday, Wednesday. I think there's a game on the Thursday as well. We'll start off with Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, BT Sport 1. It's Watford versus Spurs. We can start with Watford. Big Nigel doing bits.
Unbelievable, isn't he?
What's going on there?
He just strikes me as a real leader of men. He's just got in there and went, right, we're getting out of this relegation battle. Follow me. Let's do it. And they're out the bottom three.
If you're going to follow a Premier League manager into war, it's probably Nigel Pearson.
I'm behind Nige.
Yeah, I'm going with that.
It's impressive what he's doing.
Unbeaten in 5, won 4 of those. They came very close. I mentioned this before. They came very close to beating Liverpool and probably should have beaten Liverpool in his first game. They're making it look quite easy to escape out this relegation zone. I mean, what is he getting so right?
Well, I think at Watford, you've got a really good spine there of experienced, talented players. I like Foster in goal, playing really well. Best he's played in years. Yeah. And then you've got the likes of Decore in midfield. Some big European clubs are sniffing around for him in the summer. And then Saw, the new lad who's come in, I think there's a lot more to come from him. He looks like a very talented young player who just needs to settle, and he's getting there. And then Delafeu and Deeney up front. Deeney is such an important player for that club. He might not have the natural ability of some players in this league, but the way he galvanises the squad, brings everyone together, and just manages to get goals is really impressive. And Delafeu was a Barcelona player not so long ago, so there's a spine there. And what Watford do really well is protect leads. So first goal in this game is really big. I think if Watford get it, I think they're really good at protecting leads, and I think they might get all 3 points.
They're an aggressive, physical team, aren't they? They don't bow. They're quite an intense team to play against. They're not just going to roll over, sit back, and like you say, once they've got that lead, they've got something to hold on to, and they'll fight tooth and nail to get that in the end. Good mention of Ismaila Sarr there. 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 5 games. Won a penalty as well, so he's clearly got defenders on the back foot. Is this a bit of a damning indictment of? I was trying to work out whether this is just sheer magic from Big Nige and getting more out of these players than they should be capable of. Is this a damning indictment of Javi Gracia? Kike Sanchez-Flores? Is this the player? Because I sometimes think these are the same players. Did they just let their heads drop, and should they be sort of looking at themselves thinking, why could we not pull ourselves together for a different manager? I just want to know what has sparked this.
It's difficult to put your finger on it, but I think whenever you get a new manager in, 9 times out of 10 you get the new manager bounce, and he's just channeled the new manager bounce, and whatever he's doing behind the scenes, we're not privy to that. It's really working. Maybe because they've had a plethora of foreign managers. They've now got an English manager. There's probably be a style change there. And I think Pearson's an experienced football man. He's managed a lot of clubs, be it caretaker manager. He was actually caretaker of Newcastle. I remember being away at Watford when Pearson was in charge of Newcastle and watching that game. And so he's got a lot of experience, and I think players listen to him and respond to him. And what Watford needed to... They had to react, otherwise they would have dropped out of the league really quickly, and they have done, and they've got a really good chance of staying up now. Yeah,
I feel like they've got the talent, and now they just have the sort of, they've channeled it and they've harnessed it, and they've actually got even a back to basics sort of system going, and that just maybe gets the most out of them.
Let's just
a bit of a reset button, I think they've had a lot of styles coming through. I think from Marco Silva days on till now, just switching back and forth between systems can't have helped. So maybe now they've found that rhythm, and fair play to them. So there's less of a gap between Watford and Spurs than there is between Spurs and the Champions League places. Looking at this Premier League table here, that's a bit of a mad
witchcraft.
One. Spurs won 1 in 5. It's just. Can they salvage this season? What can they actually aim for really this time around?
Maybe. Well, they need to win something. So an FA Cup win would be massive for that club, to have the day out, to lift the silverware, to get that off their back. That probably represents their best chance of doing that.
Probably wins everybody around to Jose Mourinho, because I imagine there's probably still quite a few doubters among them. And if you can, if you see him at the end of the season, no matter where they finish in the table, if you see him lifting that trophy, that's the Mourinho they thought they were investing in.
He just hasn't had the impact I think they were hoping for. It's been very inconsistent. I mean, drawing at Norwich, losing to Southampton, and now losing Kane for the pretty much the rest of the season is a huge blow. And you saw against Liverpool, they gave Liverpool an okay game. They kept themselves in the game, and then when the chance inevitably came at the end, Lo Celso, Mr. Sitter, Son, who was basically playing through the middle as the Harry Kane of the team, missed a chance. I think Moura will probably get his chance up there. It's difficult to replace Kane.
Yeah, they actually seem to create more in that Liverpool game than in previous games when they have missed him, and yet they just, again, it's the either or. Like, they couldn't actually have that finisher on the pitch to finish off the chances they were creating.
Well, we're in the January transfer window, and Match of the Day magazine, we're writing about transfers every day, and I'd love Spurs to buy a striker. It would make my job a lot easier. It would give us something to write about, and everyone's saying that's what they need to do, but I think it's easier said than done. I know they've signed midfielder today, Gedson Fernandes, but just a big sign, Cavani. I believe he's out of contract. Someone like that. He's at the time of his career. Mourinho could probably speak to him and say, look, you could come in and you, when Kane is fit, you're probably going to be on the bench, but you're 32, 33 now. So something big and loan dealy like that, I think needs to happen for Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got here actually. So again, Christian Eriksen probably on the way out. Looks like he's played his last game for Spurs. I'd love to see them go get somebody like Grealish, and I don't think it's going to happen in this window, but I'd love to see him in that team. Just that bit of wild card, bit of flair, bit of just something different Grealish, against the grain, I guess. And he'd be chomping at the bit for a big move like that. Or if he did make that big move, he'd be desperate to prove a point at that top level.
In the summer, I think that's on.
Yeah,
January. With Villas,
he's
so key. That's really going to have to spend a lot of money to make.
I mean, he is the difference between staying up and going down, essentially, for them this season. Just a quick note on Eriksen as well. This is where I'm going to bring in my weekly Sunderland link here. So we had Aidan McGeady, player of the season last year, most creative player, best player in the team. You could probably say similar things about Eriksen with Spurs, up there with one of their most creative players, etc. Bit of a bust up behind the scenes. We bombed him out at the under-23s. He's left, and now all of a sudden, dressing room changes. Everybody's flying, pulling from the same page. We're winning games. We're moving up the table. I'm wondering whether maybe that's the case with Eriksen. Maybe they just need him out. I think on the pitch he strolls about, and I think he is very, very casual when he's when I've watched him the last few weeks playing. Just sort of not. There's just something not there with him, and I don't know if it was like Sanchez when he downed tools with Arsenal. And just couldn't pick him up again.
I think he's guilty of downing tools. I don't think he's as bad as a bad apple as McGeady is.
It may not be. I don't want to. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I wonder if somebody is with that amount of speculation and not shutting it down. He clearly wants to leave. Whether that has maybe soured the dressing room a little bit, and I wonder whether once he goes, whether that might clear the air and free up the team a little bit. Yes, perhaps. Who knows? We'll see. Prediction for this one.
I think Watford are going to win it.
Yeah,
and I think if they score first, that's how it'll go. They'll get the 3 points.
Yeah, going with a 2-1 win for Watford there. Moving on to Saturday evening, 5:30 kickoff on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. It's the Toon. It's Newcastle versus Chelsea. With 87 players out, have you got the call up yet?
Well, we're down to single fingers.
Single fingers
with Yedlin with his hand injury. No, 9 injuries I counted, so that's good. Alan Saint-Maximin was moonwalking on his Instagram last night, so that's a good sign. He is actually massively key to Newcastle. If they have him available, I think they've only lost once with him in starting in the team. So as soon as he's ready, he'd probably go back in the team, which isn't probably the best way to deal with a hamstring injury, chucking him straight back in. I think that's one thing Bruce has been guilty of, running players into the ground. His rotation hasn't been as nuanced as Rafa's was. Rafa famously had an algorithm that he used to rate players on and how close they were to the red zone. And Bruce just plays them.
Go on, lads.
Poor Lejeune, he done his second ACL. He played about 6 games over Christmas. So that we'll see. But I think there's some key players available. Lascelles is back, captain, and Richie, massive, absolutely massive. Richie has actually got a really bad tackle from in a Leicester game in the EFL Cup. Had 2 ankle operations, so he's back because he's just he's just a little terrier and really, demands massive effort from all the players around him, and having him back is big. So Newcastle actually looking a little bit healthier and should have a chance of getting something from this at home.
I've got questions about Joe Linton.
Joe
Linton, has he had the same... So he scored the other night, which, that'll have done the world of good, even if it was against Rochdale or whatever. He's still got his name on the score sheet. That'll do him doing good. Has he been afforded, this is purely from the outside perspective here, has he been afforded maybe the same patience as, so Almiron obviously went for so long without getting that goal. Finally got his goal, there was a huge outpouring, there was support. He's a bit of a cult hero from what I see about Almiron. Is that the case for Joe Linton, or have people just completely turned on him?
I think after the Rochdale game away, he had a pretty bad game, had chances, and the body language wasn't great. And I think it was a bit unsavoury towards the end. There was a lot of fans went to that game, small ground, so it was audible. So after the Rochdale game, it wasn't pretty, and I think then we went on to Wolves, and it was a bit better. What we see from Almiron is probably the hardest working football I've ever seen wear a Newcastle shirt. He's absolute grafter. Like, I'd describe, he's like a dog on the beach chasing the ball. If there was no advertising boards, he would run out the stadium. So that works in Almiron's favour. The fans see that and appreciate that. Joe Linton is a Brazilian. He's more laid back. He's got a bigger frame to carry around the pitch for 90 minutes. He's played just about every game. I'd be surprised if there's an outfield player with more minutes than Joe Linton. Right. So at some point he's probably going to need a break. But he did manage to score in the replay. So that's, it's just, he's been left in the team to hopefully break his duck, which he has done. He's scored 2 goals now, so you can only hope there's a bit of momentum there, and he can keep, he can get in the goals. But what we've seen from him so far hasn't been great. You're looking at a player who probably needs to play with a big guy, Andy Carroll, who unfortunately can't play every game, and Joe Linton can't really control the ball well under pressure, and the few chances he's had. A lot
of things go when your confidence is low, when your mentality is not quite right. Like, you start to get the basics wrong, and it must be quite hard to lumber your frame around the pitch.
And this is a young lad who doesn't know the language, and he's been chucked into the toughest league in the world and expected to score 20 goals. It's difficult. Very difficult.
I feel sorry for him, but like I say, this maybe a decent chance. It's Chelsea.
They never good as players as any to do it.
They've kept a couple of clean sheets in a row, but I'm still not entirely convinced by them at the back. Having a weird season. I mean, we always kind of expected this from Lampard's first year, transfer embargo, etc. I guess any other season they'd be in probably quite real trouble after a bit of a patchy December. But the way it's sitting right now, they've got nobody really challenging them for it. They're pretty happy in fourth there.
Yeah, there's an opportunity to just keep developing and keep nurturing these young players. There's huge talent there. The latest, Reece James, the lad who's coming at right back, fantastic talent, very smart player. Some of the positions he takes up, and the Burnley game, I noticed him forging a little bit of a partnership with Callum Hudson-Odoi. Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately for James, he's probably about the 5th choice England right back. We're so stacked for talent at right back. He just needs to focus on Chelsea stuff, really. But he can get forward, he can assist, and he can defend. So that's a real positive for them. And also, Kante was ruled out quite late before the Burnley game, and Ross Barkley came in the middle and really had a fantastic game. And
I don't mind Barkley. I think he takes a lot of stick for maybe not being what people expect of him. I think people expect him to be this like all-out dynamic, box to box, even like goals, assists, just the works. I think people expect everything from him, and I don't think he's that type of player. And I think he is when he just has to sit a little bit deeper. I think he can be very effective, and we've seen that with England before as well. He actually does have that role, and he can fill in those. I mean, and Kante is a world-class player who gets in the team every single time. But yeah, I agree there. I think
it was a brave choice for Lampard to put him in there rather than Kovacic, who might have been expected to play with Kante being injured. But Barkley's been a bit unlucky. He's had some off-the-field problems and injuries, and I think Lampard was really keen to praise him after the Burnley game and say, that this is a player who's finally, free of his injuries, and maybe he could have a really strong second half of the season.
Absolutely. Bit of a crucial time for Chelsea. They've got this game against Newcastle, and then they've got a run of Arsenal, Leicester, United, Spurs. And all teams, let's say, who are either just above or will be looking at that fourth spot and thinking, let's have a go. And then obviously the Champions League returns, which they'll be hoping to go further. And so this is quite a crucial period in their season. Prediction for this one?
Do you know what? I'm gonna be positive and say maybe 2-2.
Yeah, I'm going Chelsea win, but I'm seeing both teams scoring here, as per the Chelsea way. Moving on to Super Sunday, we have a 2 o'clock kickoff on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. It's Burnley versus Leicester. Now, I've got strong feelings on Burnley going down.
Yeah, I'm worried about them.
I'm a little bit scared for them right now. I think Sean Dyche is a great manager. I think he is just one of those. He's the absolute dream for a bottom half team with low resources compared to the rest of the pile. But I guess it's not too dissimilar to Bournemouth in the sense that they've got this good manager backed by awful recruitment, and I think the difference between the two sides is that they're not. Bournemouth are probably spending big money and wasting it, whereas Burnley just aren't spending the money. I picked up their list of transfers from the start of this season and last season.
Here we go.
Got Eric Peters, Jay Rodriguez, who has 5 starts, 16 sub appearances, 3 goals, 0 assists. Bailey Peacock Farrell as third keeper, and some man called Ryan Cooney loaned out to Morecambe. That's not keeping you up. Especially after you have a poor season. That's not the list of players you need to bring in to improve or solidify or establish anything like that. Last season, Joe Hart, Ben Gibson, Matej Vidra, Peter Crouch, Joel Senior, Rob Harker, obviously the 2 last ones, they're youngsters. They're just not making any quality signings whatsoever, and I'm not usually the biggest advocate of just spend because it's a lazy way to go. But after 2 or 3 years of floundering, they got the Europa League a couple of years ago, and they've not added any quality. They've not used that position. They've not used the extra TV money.
Yeah, the first
bit
time,
of a Burnley rant there.
Yeah, but you're right, and they haven't learned from their mistakes, because when they came up in 2014, they came up and didn't spend any money at all and went straight back down. And they thought, well, fair enough. We've had a go in the Premier League. We've saved the money that we've earned from the TV money and gone back down. Then they came back up again, and you would have thought maybe learn from the mistake of not investing, but they actually improved and did really well. And like you say, get into the Europa League, and then it's time to be brave and recruit and build your squad, a squad that could deal with Europa League football. They didn't do that, and now they're really paying for it. And one of the problems they have is that they're a victim of their own success with Sean Dyche, because they won't sack him.
No,
and that's where the other clubs in the bottom half of the table, getting a new manager in can often be worth about 6 points. Burnley won't sack the manager. Norwich probably won't sack the manager. Bournemouth, would they sack the manager? That's where this could be. That could be the difference between staying up and relegation. Clubs are afraid to sack the managers and think long term. And Dyche, who I think he's great. I like his approach to football, but the recruitment just hasn't been there. There's no creativity from open play in that team, and they're making mistakes now. Against Chelsea, they were in the game. They actually took the lead, and it was ruled out for VAR, very close offside decision, and then a really sloppy penalty is given away, and you're 1-0 down at Chelsea, and the talent they've got, it's really difficult. So you lose 4 in a row until it's alarm bells, and they've got some difficult games ahead, and it looks like it's only gone one way, this.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously starting these run of tougher games, you've got Leicester up next. Leicester, is this the start of a bit of a downfall, or is this more just a curbing of expectations here? I was fully, the way they were playing, the style they were playing, the fact that they were doing it every single week, like they had to have been in a title race at one point in this season. You'd probably say that chance is maybe gone now, more due to Liverpool just being beyond everybody else by a million miles. Will they be happy with where they are right now?
Yeah, of course they will. I think if you spoke to a Leicester fan at the start of the season, they would have snapped your hand off for top 6.
For sure.
So Champions League would be massive for them, be a fantastic achievement, and I think they'll go on to get it. What you're seeing now, I think, with Leicester is a really tired team. You look at Chilwell, Tielemans was rested, Chilwell looks knackered, and they've actually been given quite a bit of time off this week, I understand.
Right.
So they play a really demanding system, the press and the squad isn't massive. So I just think it's caught up on them. But fair play. What they've done so far is amazing, and they just need to. I think hopefully the rest will help them. Vardy is very reliant on Vardy, and it's as if he's getting younger the way he's playing. But
it's phenomenal.
You can't sustain that. He's 33 now, so maybe they'll recruit in January. I don't think they need to. I just think they need to maybe look at rest and recovery, and there is a winter break coming up in February, so if they can get through to then, I think they'll be fine. Yeah,
they need a couple of sort of just unspectacular but solid signings behind this. Just they need that sort of James Milner figure who's just going to play anywhere.
Yeah, that would be good.
Obviously not him, but like just somebody who's going to be fill in at left back, right back, centre midfield. Just a couple of utility men, maybe. Just like you say, to keep them fresh.
And then they need to keep a hold of people like Maddison, because that's the balance they've got now, is not losing their first team players to Champions League teams or panicking teams like Man United who might come in and go, here's 70 million for Maddison. So keep a hold of their players. I don't think they need to get anyone in particular this January. But yeah, Milner. Wouldn't we all love a Milner?
That sort of play. Everybody needs a James Milner in their life. Just somebody to keep things on the straight and narrow.
Also in this game, did you read that all the Leicester away fans are getting free snoods for this game?
Oh, what?
Keep them warm at Turf Moor. I love that. Lovely touch.
I mean, I really like Leicester and all that, but come on, boys. Free snoods. Well,
you need it up there.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I've got nothing to add on that. Free snoods. Prediction?
Leicester for me.
I mean, I really want to say Burnley now. Free snooze. But no, Leicester win, and I can only see that going one way. Moving on to the big, do we call it the big game of the weekend? It's Liverpool versus Manchester United. It's a 4:30 kickoff on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. I'm going to ask you your thoughts on Liverpool, because I feel like I've just repeated myself for the last 10 weeks. Last week we had Lee Stobbs' fiery hot take that Liverpool are good at football. I really enjoyed that one. That's the sort of content we enjoy here at Football Times. What do you make of them?
I think we're on the verge of them turning into like one of the iconic teams. The way they play, there's a bit of Pep's Barcelona in there at times. And I watch a team, Newcastle, who play with wing backs, and they sometimes get caught out, and there's three at the back. Liverpool are playing with two central defenders, and their wing backs are basically wingers. It's amazing how much their full backs press, but they can still deal with everything at the back, and I suppose that's why you spend money on a player like Virgil van Dijk. Hugely impressive, and the only team they've dropped points against is Man United, so this is maybe interesting game in that respect. January, traditionally not a good time for Liverpool. Did a little bit of research, and the last 3 years they've only, in 2016 they won 4 out of 12. In 2017 they won 1 out of 9 games in January. In January 2018 they won 2 out of 5. Already they've won 3. And they've got, I think they've got 4 more to play, so they're getting through this difficult month.
Yeah.
And I do think maybe we're going to be talking about this if they go on to achieve what they should achieve. We could be looking at one of the iconic teams in modern football.
I watched them quite recently, and I can't remember which game it was now, but Mike Lowe afterwards basically came out and said, like, this is one of the greatest ever Premier League teams, and he was getting absolutely slaughtered for it on Twitter, like absolutely butchered, not just purely because it was Mike Lowe, but like. I thought he was spot on. Yeah. Like, how is this not one of the greatest ever Premier League teams? I know they came within a point. It's the 3rd highest ever total, and now this season they're doing things that nobody's ever seen before. Well, in Premier League era, football didn't start in '92, but I just don't see how this could be anything other than, like you say, this iconic, phenomenal team. I mean, they're going to beat the Invincibles points tally. Almost certainly, and the way they're playing, the relentless nature of their style, everything, like you're saying, that they're doing all this without really being very, I guess, without really bringing people or dropping people further back. Like, they are still doing this their way, gung ho, full on every time. I can't see anything but, like I say, absolutely rampant, and nothing would shock if they did go unbeaten for the rest of the season.
And I think they can do it.
Big shout out as well to Roberto Firmino. I don't want to just call out Firmino when he scores a goal. It's easy to do. But he is phenomenal. He is such a good player. That touch behind the young Spurs lad.
Oh, yeah. It's Albert Einstein football. Genius.
Phenomenal.
Can't coach it.
Just that. it just looks weird on a TV when you watch it because you're not used to players having that level of close control about them. To just it makes it look so easy when Firmino's on the ball in the box, and obviously him just stitching the play between midfield, attack, everything else. It
was just his turn to be the best player against Tottenham.
Yeah.
You know, normally sometimes it's Mane, sometimes it's Salah. It was just Firmino's turn to be the best
player. Ran off
player.
the pitch at the end, probably high-fived Salah, said, "Tag, you're right. Go and do it, son." And does the dirty work so well. I think Liverpool have players like that across the pitch. I think Gini Wijnaldum up there as well.
Oh, I love Wijnaldum.
I think he's such a good player in that
amazing
midfield.
Amazing balance, and play in the middle and go any direction, either foot. I think he's fantastic.
Again, it's just layer upon layer upon layer of players ready to step up and be the man of the match that day. Henderson did it a while ago. Yeah, it's all great. Manchester United, obviously, like you said, they're the only team to really lay a glove on Liverpool this season and leave a mark. Can you see them doing it again this time?
I don't know, because of the history of this fixture. Maybe form goes out the window. You know, maybe unlikely, but because of the attention this fixture gets, maybe something like that can happen. It could motivate Man United, but generally speaking, Man United, I'm looking at them. There's the highest wage bill, the most expensive assembled squad, and I saw them over Christmas. I went to their game at Arsenal, and there was just no midfield.
Oh, they were awful in that one.
Where's the midfield?
Yeah, they were shocking.
The front three does look dangerous. You know, Rashford, Martial, James. I like that, but there's no creativity. It's very panicked, and I just think they need to, they need to change the manager, change the owners, change everything. It's not great. It
feels like it does very much feel like they have a defence, they have an attack, and it's just kind of like they sort of fly between the two of them without really anything in the middle. Like, this is why they play the counter-attacking style, maybe not out of choice, but out of sheer necessity, because they've got nobody in the middle. Who I really like. McTominay, obviously he's injured, and Pogba, like Pogba, but obviously he's wherever he is injured at the minute. We'll go with injured. But yeah, I don't think they've got any other choice than to just get it pretty direct, pretty quick up to Rashford and hope for the best. And I think that's just such a bad way to build your team up from scratch, especially with Solskjaer being afforded. He's clearly going to be afforded plenty of time.
Is he though? I mean,
I think they're going to stick with it. I think they've got this. Yeah. I could still see him being there in a year or two, even if they're still,
really?
Well, genuinely. That's even if they're outside, even if they're sort of 4th, 5th, I think they're going to persevere with him. Until they can sort of shift out the dead wood, and maybe by then it'll have changed. But like you say there, that midfield is just not good enough.
I'd be staggered if Solskjaer's still there at the end of the season.
You think?
I don't think he can be there at the end of the season. If he is still there at the end of the season, I think that's to the detriment of the club.
Interesting. I'm not saying I totally agree with that. I just think I can see him being there for another year and being given those transfer, because they're going to sign 2 or 3 quality players each window. I think it was the plan I read potentially. I think they're going to give him that time to do that. And I mean, by which point, if you can't do anything with a full squad.
Interestingly, though, obviously this week, I don't know if you saw the Deloitte Money League came out, and Man United were top of the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think if they don't get Champions League this season, which is probably going to be a big ask, then they'll probably be overtaken by Liverpool and Man City. And that's I think they're running out of time a little bit with this, their financial dominance. So that could have be a factor in what they do.
Keep wondering how much time Ed Woodward gets. Like, how many times can you be? How can you be this incompetent? Yeah. Sorry, Ed. Try Ed. Thanks, Ed. Prediction for this one.
I think draw again. They drew at Old Trafford, and I think both teams would probably be happy with the draw. Liverpool will be happy to just keep the momentum going and keep the unbeaten run going, and Man United would love a point. So maybe, they're quite tight games these often. I think it could be another tight draw.
I agree with pretty much all of that, but I do think Liverpool will nick it in the end. It's hardly a controversial take. Liverpool going to win a football game. Moving on, fantasy Premier League tips, and my friend, I have wildcarded.
Ooh.
I've been doing all right recently. But I just needed. There was just tweaks,
I free hit.
Ooh.
I free hit. I don't know what I just needed to do something.
Needed to just come on.
I was under pressure from the board, and I just needed
up.
to react, and it kind of worked for me. But I think I need a wild card as well, to be honest with you.
I've gone. I'm going to keep my cards close to the chest, but a couple of interesting ones there. Thrown Mahrez in.
Yeah.
I've thrown Richarlison in. I've taken Vardy out.
I think it's time with Vardy. I think it's time, and I think you need to go Ings as well.
Yeah, I gave up and went Ings last week after months of playing chicken with him, because I was like, as soon as I put you in, you're going to stop scoring. And then he kept going. Thank you very much. Yeah, my tips for this week, I'm going with KDB captain every single time now. I just think he is just everything. Everything about him is phenomenal. If you need a very, very cheap player, 4 million, defender, Man United, Brandon Williams.
Oh, yeah.
So Shaw is out.
Can't finish,
Who knows how long Shaw's going to be out, yeah. His record in his last 4 games, 6 points, 0 points, 5 points, 10 points. Obviously got Liverpool this week, so it might not be the greatest one, but if you need to, cook the books a little bit, shift around.
Can I give a little cheap one
Go
as well?
for it.
Almiron is a midfielder, 5.8, and he plays in a front 3 at Newcastle, and he scored 4 in his last 7.
Relatively on fire.
So yeah,
nice one.
Save the pennies.
Any other shouts in there?
Nah, that's as good as it gets.
Oh, fair.
Almiron.
I'm also saying stick with Tammy, because I think Tammy, a lot of people are going to get rid of Tammy because of the next games. They've got Newcastle, Arsenal, Leicester, Man United, Tottenham. Comes up as a big block of red, and I think people just freak out when they see that red. But if you look at those teams there, Arsenal can't defend, Leicester on the way down, Man United, and Spurs, never know what you're going to get from them. Stick with Tammy. What's coming at Match of the Day magazine this week, sir?
Well, it's January transfer window, so loads of transfer rumours. We're just having loads of fun with it, seeing who could go where, and there's 2 packets of match attacks on the front. We've interviewed Romelu Lukaku, and I interviewed Owen Morgan, the England cricket captain.
Yes.
I know you're a cricket fan, but we did a football interview with Owen. This is interesting, before Christmas, and he picked a 5-a-side team made up of current England cricketers, a good team and a reserve team of not so good England cricketers who play 5-a-side.
Yep.
It's interesting because they've now banned cricket in the England football
so
in the England cricket team because someone got injured.
Yeah.
So they're not allowed to play anymore. But Owen he was a really nice guy, and he did a 5-a-side team. So that was my highlight of the week.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining me in the studio, Ketch, and we'll hopefully see one of your mob next week, I'm sure. We'll be having an earlier podcast next week. It'll be coming out on Tuesday to accommodate the midweek round of games. There's plenty on TV. And also, if you can't wait until then, come to radiotimes.com/sport for all of your latest previews. We've got the Australian Open coming up. We've got the Masters Snooker, and obviously your full stable of Premier League and Championship games. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers.